Quite a rough.
So the Torah tonight is dedicated to Mordechai, Le'ili Nishmas, Mordechai Yecheskel ben Rabbi Saul Tzvi. He should be a Melech Yosher for his beautiful family, and Shianuach B'Sholom al Mishkava, and the Torah we learn should be L'Toivose v'Le'ilu Nishmasai. And it is an opportunity to thank Dr. Lederreich, Reb Pesach, for enhancing and enabling. And on the personal level, I have no words to thank you, Reb Pesach. So, do you hear and see me, my dear friends?
Perfectly.
Okay. So this is such a fascinating sugya. We need about 3 or 4 hours just to get into it. And I have some very original ideas about Yissachar-Zevulun. Reb Shlomo, you know, I don't see my picture. Do you see me right now? Do you have this kuntres?
We see you. I don't have this kuntres. I took it out of the Rav's vast, as I said. The Rav's written on this in so many different places. I did not know there was a whole kuntres in this. Okay, maybe.
Okay, so soon it'll become obvious why I asked. So let's begin. Let's start with a pasuk. You know, Psukei HaTorah. Everything starts in Torah Shebachsav, Torah's Hashem Temimo. So in last week's Parsha, in Parshas Vayechi, when Yaakov benches his children, and then Yissachar Chamoygorim Roivis Bein HaMishposayim. Rashi writes, Shohoya Zevulun Oisik B'Parkamatya, Umamtzi Mozen L'Shevit Yissachar V'Moiskim B'Torah, Hu She'omer Moshe Smach Zevulun B'Tzei Sefer, V'Yissachar B'Oy Holech. Rashi here does not speak about a formal agreement, not a contractual agreement, not a partnership. It's as simple as can be. Zevulun does business, he supports Yissachar, Yissachar learns. And when Moshe Rabbeinu benches the Shvatim, that is what he means. Rashi in Parshas V'Zois HaBrocha talks in a somewhat different tone. Smach Zvulun b'tzeisecha v'Yissachar v'yolechu, Zvulun v'Yissachar also shutfis. Formal partnership. Zvulun l'choif yam v'mishkan v'yoytze l'parka matya b'svenes u'mistaka v'noytze l'top b'Yissachar v'hem yoshim v'yoshim v'Torah and l'ficha chigdem Zvulun l'Yissachar. So Rashi speaks about a partnership and an agreement. But Rashi does not talk about the nature of this partnership, the nature of the agreement. How much does Zvulun need to give, and how much does he get? How much does Yissachar give? We move down Medrash Tanchuma, coincides with the Rashi in Parshas V'Zois HaBrocha. Zvulun l'chofamim koidem Zvulun l'Yissachar. V'lamo? Shezvulun Oisik B'Parkamati, V'Yissachar Oisik B'Torah, also shutfis beinei. The Medrash Tanchuma does speak about the nature of the shutfis. She'hei Parkamati Shel Zvulun L'Yissachar, Sheken Moshe Birchon, Smach Zvulun B'Yissachar, V'Yissachar B'Elecho. Smach Zvulun B'Yissachar L'Parkamatya, Mishum V'Yissachar B'Elecho, Oisik B'Torah, Lefichach Higdim Zvulun L'Yissachar. Let us note an interesting thing. When Rashi describes the partnership, also shutfis b'neihem shehi pargamatya shel Zvulun v'Yissachar, but he doesn't describe what's the other half of the deal. So what does Yissachar give? I already want to make this point right here and now, because I will elaborate a bit later. In my opinion, it's a one-sided partnership. What does Yissachar give? Yissachar gives nothing. Yissachar gives nothing. Zvulun is the giver. Yissachar is the recipient. Yissachar learns Torah. And that's it. Yissachar learns Torah. And Zevulun enables him to learn Torah. And that's where the partnership ends. What I seem to say now doesn't make sense to you, but it will soon. Let's forge ahead. Tool. יודע רשמם ועובדת צלח הסדוקה. מי שאי אפשר ללמוד, מפני שאין יודע כלל ללמוד, או מפני תורדס הזמן, יספק לאחר המלוינדם, ותחושב לו, כאילו הוא לא ימד בעצמו, כמו שדורש חכמים בפוסק שפת זבולון בציסחו, ויסוחו ביולחו. Torah seems to coincide with Rashi and Pashas V'Yechi. It doesn't speak about Shutvis. It doesn't speak about an agreement. You can't learn, support others, and they learn. And it is as if you learn. Weiss Yosef follows the footsteps of the Torah. But the Shulchan Aruch doesn't say it will be considered as if he learns. But the Ramo adds that on. Too. And then the Ramo writes, so the Ramo speaks about a formal agreement. That coincides with the Rashi and Pashas V'Zois HaBrocha. And the Rama goes a step further. V'yachlik imoy hasachar. So one will share the reward of Yissachar. That's a comment that the Rama writes. Yissachar-Zevulun is only mekanal habo. You support a Yissachar, you should be able to learn, then you share the reward. But if you come to the Eved after he's been learning for decades, and now you want to buy his reward, that doesn't work. The source of this comment is in Soita Chof Aleph. Let's move down. Let's scroll down. I hope we have all the sources on our page. Here we are, Soita Chof. So the Gemara explains a posek that we find in Shiur HaShirim towards the bottom of the page. My boys yevoizulo. So the posek in Shiur HaShirim says, Im yiten ish kol heim beisoy be'avo, boys yevoizulo. Omerula, lo k'shem anachi Azaria, lo k'Rabbi Yochanan ben Asiya, ero k'Hillel v'Shavna. The Chiyosar of Dima Omer Hillel v'Shavna Aki Have. There are two brothers. Hillel Nosek v'Torah v'Shavna Ovadiska. L'saf Omalei To Naroiv v'Liflad. Yotzav Aska v'Yamra. Im Yetenish Kol Haim Beisa v'Yavo Bois Yavois Lo. Rashi explains. What's the story of Shimon Achi Azariah? So let me give a short, brief introduction. It is common in the days of the Tanoim, most of the great Tanoim were called with their father's name. These are names that every Jewish child should love and cherish and remember. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, Rabbi Shimon ben Yehoshua, Rabbi Yehuda ben Elo, Rabbi Yossi ben Chalafta, Rabbi Chanina ben Doisa, Rabbi Loza ben Shemua. They're all called on the father's name. There's only one Tana, Shimon Achi Azariah. And why is Shimon called on the name of Azariah, who was a brother, not a father? Let's have a look at Rashi. Shimon Achi Azariah Tanu, b'Mishnah Kamaisa Tzvochim, the very first Mishnah in Tzvochim. But לא מתואר על ידי יוכב, שהוסיק בפרק המתיה, כדי שיחלק בזכות לימודו של שמן. לכן הוא נקרא על שם עזריה אחיו. וכן רבי יוחנן לומד על פי הנוסי. Hillel and Shavan is a different story. Hillel osik b'Torah metoch oini ram. And then Shavana comes along and he says, I want to buy 50% of whatever you learned in the past. That's ridiculous. And that is the Ramah. There's a tshuva from Reb Shlomo Kruger, and I don't know whether we have it on our source sheet. Shalas Tshuva is Tuvtam V'das Chelek Aleph Reish Yud.
We do.
Okay, then let's see it on the screen. That'll be amazing. So last week, we had the Agudas quoting his mother. Reb Shlomo Kluger quotes his son. So there's a tshuva from Reb Shlomo Kluger. Here we are. So this was an argument between a Yissachar and a Zevulun.
Can the Rav tell us a little bit about the Reb Shlomo Kluger and his godless?
Reb Shlomo Kluger was an amazing story. He was the Posek Ador. In that generation, there were two huge Gaonim. Reb Shlomo Kluger and Reb Yosef Shor Natanzon. Reb Yosef Shor Natanzon was a Shalom Eshiv. And I must be personal. My greatest inspiration as a Bocher was the Shalom Eshiv. Somehow, I just locked into this amazing sefer. I was a young Bocher. And I was amazed by the Shalom Eshiv. It's the biggest Shalas Tshuva sefer in history. 5 huge volumes, 15 chalokim. As a Bocher, as a younger man, I was probably booking most of it. Oh, in all the years that passed, I forgot most of it. But something I still remember. That was my great inspiration, and it gave me cheshik to learn. So Rabbi Yosef Shor Natanzon and Reb Shlomo Kluger were the two Gedolei Ador going back home 20 years, and they were Barei Plukta in many different sugyas, different personalities. Reb Shlomo Kluger was the Charef, the firebrand, a kanoi. He was always willing to come out against, and Shalom Eshiv was the softer one, the more moderate one, always looking for kulas, different personalities, different shittas. So many times they cooperated, and many times they were Barei Plikta, and the most famous battle they had was over Machine Matzos. Shalom Eshiv supported Machine Matzos, Reb Shlomo Kluger was against. Reb Shlomo Kluger was amazing. He was the Posek Ador. He has some gewaltige chedushim. Some of them are really far-fetched, but he was the Posek Ador. He probably wrote more Kedusha Torah than anyone else. There's a Machane in Yerushalayim. They're printing a Peresh of Reb Shlomo Kluger ala Torah, and there's a volume on every parasha. I think they printed about 40 volumes up to now. Every parasha is about a 500-page volume. Bereishis Noach Lech Lecho, Shmois Va'ero Boiro B'Shalach. Every parasha is a volume of a few hundred pages anyway. So Reb Shlomo Kluger writes a letter. Be'ish echad shemucha reva chelek mi'olam habo shelo la'asheni. He sold 25% of his olam haba. V'lo kibel kinyan, rak shekosav le'anayar, ani moicha lechu reva olam haba sheli. And he got paid for it. Case choyza b'yamoicha. And he gives back the money to the purchaser. The purchaser says, no way, I don't agree. I bought, it's mine. And they come to a din Torah for Reb Shlomo Kluger. And Reb Shlomo Kluger writes, this is not a question at all. It's not about annulling and invalidating an agreement. This agreement is ridiculous. You bought nothing, you sold nothing, and he quotes the Gemara and Saita. Yissachar-Zevulun is only mekano lahaba, but you can't sell 25% of what you already have. And down the tshuva, if we scroll down, I think he quotes Hayeled, his son, who was a child, and he wrote Bni Hayeled Chaim Yehudo.
Yeah, it's there. Line 3.
Ubni Hacharef Mohar Chaim Yehuda Hirani. He doesn't write a Yeled, but I think it was a child at the time. And he said a nice pshat. He says, Lamo higdem Yissachar-Zevulun because Yissachar needs to come before Zevulun. Yissachar needs to come along and support Zevulun before he's learning. But if Yissachar comes after Zevulun, doesn't work. So let me go back to the fundamentals. Two Rashis. One doesn't talk about a partnership at all, just about support. That's the Rashi in Parshas V'yechi. Rashi says, "Brocha shutfus." The Torah and the Shulchan Aruch don't speak about a shutfus. They don't speak about any form of agreement, arrangement, partnership. They just write, if you can't learn, support another. And if you support Lamdei Torah, it'll be considered as if you're learning yourself. The Ramah says, no, you could make an agreement. So I think there are two fundamental different approaches how to understand Yissachar-Zevulun. And in a few minutes, I will share with you my understanding, which is somewhat bringing the both poles together. Maram al-Shikar is the very first and most important source in the sugya of Yissachar-Zevulun. Shuvas Maram al-Shikar Siman Kuf Aleph. Maram al-Shikar was one of the late Sephardi Rishonim. And the importance of this tshuva is not only the Maram al-Shikar, but even more important, the entire tshuva is a quote of a tshuva of Rav Hai Gaon. Rav Hai Gaon was the Rebbe of the Rif, one of the great Gaonim. Oid sha'alto. We're not going to read through the entire tshuva because it's a long tshuva, but sections. Im yesh mamish boisen shemoichem zechu yosein zevase. Im zachar koino if sida moichem. Ve'im pu'ulezu yesh la'ika. Is there such a thing? Selling olam haba. Tshuva. Lo imatzos yimokum ledov hazeh and b'tshuva shala Rabbeinu Hai Gaon. V'riso latiko salacho u'misham tovan ikon shel devorim. So, Rav Hai Gaon has a lengthy tshuva. If we could scroll down, maybe we'll highlight some of the ikar points. So Rav Hai Gaon says, there is no such a thing as selling sachar mitzvah. There is no such a thing as buying sachar mitzvah. And he quotes a posuk in Novi, Tzidkas HaTzadik lo tihiyeh, v'rishas harosha lo tihiyeh. You get what you paid for. You get what you deserve. If you did mitzvahs, you get sachar. You did Agudas, you will be punished. You can neither sell or buy. There is no such a concept. So what is Yissachar-Zevulun about? Rav Hai Gaon says, Yissachar gets sachar pu'ulosoi. You support Torah, that's a great mitzvah. And if you support, so second column at the top of the page, ויש לו הנוע כברכס אויסי אונו אוי אויסי חכם וכן המסייד מקיים המצווס. What the Zevulun gets is sachar for his mitzvah. And that is all. It's not a purchase. It's not a transaction. Sachar pu'ulosoi, and that is all he would get. So that is the approach of Rav Hai Gaon. But I ask a simple question. According to Rav Hai Gaon, why do we say Kaddish for Niftorim? Why do we do mitzvahs? Why do we learn Mishmayis for a Niftor? Does it make sense? Does it have any source? Of course it does. Zoya, Shulchan Aruch and Hilchos Agudas. So to me it is clear we must somewhat compromise with this Rav Hai Gaon Yes. B'derech zguli, this is Soidus Abriya. The living could benefit the dead, the deceased, with learning Torah for them. But it's not a purchase. It's not a transaction. It's not buying. It's not selling. When you support Torah, you have a mitzvah. That is fundamentally the opinion of Rabbi Gor. Second most important source, Shuvas Avkas Loichel from the Beis Yosef. In chronological order, and not only in chronological order, it is the Beis Yosef. And the Beis Yosef is the Beis Yosef. He's the king. So let's have a look at Siman Beis. Baalei Torah makablim pras tadiri, ve'yoysa moiskim v'Torah, u'mamutar afilu l'svos acholkom al Rambam, u'matira mishem eis lasas Hashem, ve'gein eina makablim miyochid, ve'yoysa yadua sheyesh lem 50, sheyesh lem 50 v'netziano shmois, melvad metaltel abayis, u'malbishim v'tachshit azov lefich moidam, הנוהג לבעלי בתים כי יוצא בהם ירא השם בו יסמוכם שדור בוי. ואפילו שאינו יהיה עושי וגם יודע בזה, אחרי שאינו יהיה בתור סדוקה. So he speaks about making a formal agreement, supporting a person that learns Torah. He's not poor. You're not mekayim mitzvah tzedakah. But you want to support him to share in his Talmud Torah. Is that legitimate? And the Beis Yosef's approach seems to be that Yissachar-Zevulun is like a transaction. And therefore, even if the recipient, the Yissachar is not poor, he's not entitled to get tzedakah, but it's legitimate, even according to the Rambam. He means the Rambam in Masechet Tovos, the Rambam is very adamantly against a Talmud Chacham receiving support from people. It is well known that the Ramban's opinion, every Talmud Chacham needs to work and needs to provide for himself and for his family. All the other Rishonim disagree with the Rambam. But the Beis Yosef says, even according to the Rambam, Yissachar-Zevulun is legitimate. It's not a handout. It is like a transaction. Let's scroll down. Let's scroll down in the tshuva of the Avkas Loichel. Tshuva. Imei yois kiktzaz divrei hashala eina medikdokim. So he writes, is not only, he can't take leket shikha upeya. However, he is entitled to take from Yissachar. יש מוקם הסמאן שבדבר מות מקרן, יוכל להרוויח פרנסוס, יש מוקם אפילו בקיף לקביים, לא יכול להרוויח פרנסוס, וכן בנושים, יש בוקי בסחורי שמצניח, ויש איני בוקי. And therefore, the Beis Yosef explains. So that is where the inyan of Yissachar-Zevulun comes in, and Yissachar is entitled. And he writes, 30 years ago, I wrote the Kesef Mishnah. And we disagree with the Rambam. Let's scroll down. So the Beis Yosef writes, 30 years ago, when I wrote the Kesef Mishnah, I dealt with the Rambam, and I made it clear that most of the poskim disagree with him. לעניינים שלפנינו, הם אלו הבעלי תורה מלמדם לחרם או הם דיונים מתורם ליטל תשלם מהציבור. I'm just looking for the line that is most relevant in our sugya. We need to scroll down because it is a somewhat lengthy tshuva. Here we are, freeze. So at the end of this paragraph, column 1, he quotes the Gemara and Saita, he quotes Rashi. משמע שעזריה הולכוי לכל מה שהוא מרוויח עם שמן, ואפילו שיש יוסף מקדי פרנסוסו. So he wants to be medayek from Rashi and Saita that Azariah shared whatever he made with Shimon, even though it was more than Shimon fundamentally needed. Let's go back up to the top of column 2. So the Yissachar argues there was somewhat of a contradiction between Rashi in the Zvachim da Beis Amud Aleph on the mission of Shimon and Azariah and Rashi and Saita. And the Yissachar is mesupik whether the Yissachar is entitled to take more than he needs. In the Maskana of the Tshuva, he writes, no, the Yissachar should not take more than he needs. And I once again apologize to the moderator. Let's scroll down. I want to see the end of the Tshuva. And I think the Yissachar concludes the Tshuva and he says, a Yissachar should never really take more than he needs. Here we are. Makal mokum leina masikos of a shol shesh kama balator kemat meisim berov lefi she'ei noisinam de sepukum.
He goes on to explain this in this paragraph. This is what the Rav was looking for. How much you can take.
Yeah. So the last line is, anyway, so the entire Tshuva of B'si Yosef is based on the assumption that we are dealing with a partnership. And that is why he is mesupik. Maybe the Yissachar is entitled to take more than he needs, because if it's a partnership, it's a partnership. And you buy in 50% of my toilet, and you give me 50% of what you earn. So the Yissachar and the Maram al-Shakar seem to represent two different approaches regarding Yissachar-Zevulun. Do we have the Agudas Moshe on our source sheet? Because the Agudas Moshe is the most important source, contemporary source. And what is shocking about this Agudas Moshe is, on one hand, we all know that Moshe. I know that Moshe personally. In my eyes, he was the giant of our generation, towering above most of the others. But what is so interesting, that Moshe writes a lengthy tshuva about Yissachar-Zevulun, and he does not quote neither Maram al-Shkar nor the Agudas. And that is a bit strange. But that was Rav Moshe's derech. Sometimes from the Gemara and the Rishonim of Shas, he goes directly to Psak Halacha. So how come you just aren't aware of the two earliest and most important sources? Maram al-Shakar quoting Rav Hai Goen and the Yissachar and Agudas. If it wouldn't be Agudas Moshe, I would say, wow, this is really wrong, but that's Rav Moshe. And that's part of his greatness. Sometimes he goes from the Gemara and Rashi and Tosfos and the Ramban to Piskei Halacha. Rav Moshe's fundamental approach is similar to the Agudas. It is a formality, it's an agreement, it's a partnership. And Rav Moshe says, the Zevulun needs to get 50% of what he earns. If you want to get 50% of Yissachar's Torah, his Torah is as precious as your money. And he has very fixed rules. Without going into many details, I want to share with you my understanding. So Rav Hai Goen is number one on our list. One of the greatest Gaonim going back 1,000 years. The Rebbe of the Rif. And all the Rishonim followed in the footsteps of the Rebbe. And Rav Hai Gaon says, Dvorim Pshutim, Tzidkas HaTzadik lo tihiyeh, Rishas HaRosha lo tihiyeh. The Yissachar has nothing to sell, and therefore the Zevulun has nothing to buy. Yissachar-Zevulun is all about the mitzvah of supporting Torah. But the Medrash does speak about Shutvis, and Rashi does speak about Shutvis, and the Ramah does speak about lahasnois beinayim, making a formal agreement. So let me explain to you what Yissachar-Zevulun is about. Fundamentally, it's all about Achzakas HaTorah, supporting Torah. And fundamentally, the Tur writes a very clear definition. Misha eina yochal lilmod, and he supports other that learn. Nechshav ki'ilu hu lamed ba'atzmoi. And the way I see it, it is a gift of a Kodesh Baruch Hu, specifically in mitzvahs Talmud Torah. Because Talmud Torah is different than all the other mitzvahs. And so many people just can't. They can't. They don't have the ability to be Makayim or Gisa B'Yoyim V'Layla. They can't. And the Tur explains this in such simple words. Misha eina yochal lilmid mepnei she'eina yodea lilmoid klal. If we want to go back to the Tur, O mepnei teredes hazman. We're realistic. We know them. There's so many people that would like to learn, but they can't. You know, I know some very wealthy people in America, and some of them say, I just can't sit and learn. I can't do it. I don't have the menuchas and nefesh. And we have the Tur and the Shulchan Aruch. He's a good shul. He's a Baal Shul. He didn't make it in yeshiva. He doesn't know how to learn. Or maybe this is man. But Talmud Torah Keneged Kilam is the biggest mitzvah. So this is a gift that Kodesh Baruch Hu gave us. Yaspek la'acheira maloindim v'techoshev loy ki'ilu hu lomed ba'atzmo. That is the fundamental idea of Yissachar-Zevulun, as expressed by the Tur and the Shulchan Aruch. So what is this agreement and partnership about? There's a difference. If there's a Yissachar that's sitting and learning, and he gets handouts, it doesn't give him the menuchas nefesh. Shmatza boya tzelusa ki yoyme deistani. You need menuchas nefesh to learn. And that is the added value of Yissachar-Zevulun. When a Yissachar knows that a Zevulun took upon himself to support you on a steady basis. So for the next year, you have nothing to worry about. You don't need to get up every day in the morning and say, Man noichal me'ato. So yesterday, I got $50. What's going to be tomorrow? What's going to be next week? That is the added value of a Yissachar-Zevulun agreement. There is a Zevulun out there that's caring for you. And he took upon himself to provide for you for 6 months, for a year, for 2 years, and you have the menuchas nefesh. I want to go back to the Medrash. I think it's on our screen. Also, Shutvis, here we are. I mentioned this before. Also, Shutvis b'neim she'epar kamat Yissachar-Zevulun Yissachar. So what's Yissachar's part of the deal? Nothing. Yissachar learns. And because Yissachar learns by the means of Zevulun's support, it is as if Zevulun is learning together with him. Yissachar doesn't give anything. He has nothing to give. He has nothing to offer. You can't do mekach or memkar with olam haba. It's not yours. It's a dover shel olam. It's not yours to give away. The partnership is one-sided. So Zevulun supports Torah, but it's not really support Torah on a day-to-day basis. Zevulun took upon himself. He has a partnership, a formal agreement. He's going to support Yissachar for the next year. And that gives Yissachar far more shalavas and nefesh to learn, and that is the added value that the Zevulun gets. So it is an agreement. It is a partnership. Yes, it is. It's a contractual agreement, but it's not mekachu memkar. It's not buying. It's not buying or selling. It's not a seller and a purchaser. It's about supporting Torah. but supporting Torah in a fashion which will enhance Yissachar's ability to learn. And that is the added value of Yissachar-Zevulun. Let's go a step further, the way I understand it. A very chashuv guest just walked into my house, and I want to introduce to you Leon Welcher, one of my great friends from South Africa, from Johannesburg, presently in Yerushalayim. Leon, please sit.
Hi, Shalom Aleichem.
So, what is the shutfus? The way I understand it, it's a shutfus in limud. It's like a chavrusa. We are partners, not in olam haba. We are partners in Torah, as if we're learning together. Yissachar learns, and he learns better, for he's supported by Zevulun. And exactly like the Tur in the Shulchan Aruch says, Nechshav ki'ilu lo imed ba'atzmoi. And the two are learning together. And this brings us to one of the most fundamental arguments about Yissachar-Zevulun. Who gets what? So many say, and that is the approach of the Beis Yosef and Avkas Roichel, many others, 50% for Yissachar, 50% for Zevulun. I disagree. But that is what many say. It's a partnership. Yachloik imoy b'sachar. They share the reward. Are you with me? Because I see nothing on the screen right now. So according to the Agudas Moshe, 50-50. Zevulun gives 50% of his profits to Yissachar. Yissachar gives 50% of his Torah to Zevulun.
What profits are we on this Zevulun side are we talking about? Every single thing that he does for his whole life in business?
That is the Moshe's approach, which is very extreme. Very extreme. Sechem lachloik shava machza la machza. Velo dai b'mashi Zevulun Yissachar rach mashi yafsed alidei talmudoi. No. They need to split 50-50. Now, I just can't accept a situation in which two people are learning all day, Reuven and Shimon. Reuven had a wealthy Baba, and she passed away relatively young, and he got a huge Yerusha. So he's sitting and learning. No, he doesn't need anybody to support him. Shimon didn't have a wealthy Baba, or maybe he does have a wealthy Baba, and she lives a long life. So he has the bad fortune of having a Baba that's 90 years old, and she left him no Yerusha. And he needs the support of a Zevulun. Would it be fair that Reuven gets 100% of Schar Olam Haba, and Shimon will only get 50% because he needs Zevulun to support him? So what could I do? So why does Reuven deserve more Schar Mitzvah than Shimon? They're both learning all day. So Reuven is rich and Shimon is not. So what? Nimtze Shulas Adin Loike. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a Shofet Tzedek. Why does Shimon deserve less than Reuven? Because Shimon needs to be supported by a supporter. To me, that just doesn't make sense. So three great Gedolim, the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, and when I connected, I saw you were learning the Haflah. The Haflah, Orach Chaim, what's not on our source sheet is the Bnei Yissachar. But if anybody wants to check the Bnei Yissachar, I'll give you an exact quote. Bnei Yissachar, Chodesh Sivan, Megillas Rus, Mamar Ches Osvav. Either you wrote it down or you could hear this recording later. Bnei Yissachar, Chodesh Sivan, Megillas Rus, Mamar Ches Osvav. These three Gedolim, the Haflah, the Orach Chaim, give a moshel, Madliken Mener Lener. So when you light one candle from the other, candle number one that gave its light to other is not diminished at all. Doesn't become smaller. It stays as bright as it was, and it shared its light with others. So these three Gedolim say, Yissachar is left with 100%, and Zevulun gets 50%. I like the mashal, but I have a different interpretation of the mashal. Candle number 2, that got its light from candle number 1, is it have the size of candle number 1? It glows just as bright, and it's just as big as candle number 1. So I say, yeah, this is a beautiful mashal. And in my opinion, Yissachar gets 100% and Zevulun gets 100%. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu has enough olam haba out there. He has enough schar mitzvah to give for everyone. He doesn't need to split the cake and cut it into 2. Yissachar gets 100% and Zevulun gets 100% for a very simple reason. Because the Torah in the Shulchan Aruch says, if you support Yissachar, it is considered as if you are learning as well. How much am I learning? As much as Yissachar is learning. It's like we're learning together with Chavrusa. When you learn with Chavrusa, you enhance your Chavr's learning. He understands better. So each of you is learning, each of you is teaching. And do they need to split the cake in 2? He gets 100%, he gets 100%. It is the same with Yissachar-Zevulun. Okay, I said, Oisvav Mamer Ches Sivan. And he speaks about husband and wife, and that's beautiful about the Bnei Yissachar. So after this year, go home and tell your wives what the Bnei Yissachar says about Noshim Tzidkoniyos. There we are, Megillas Rus. We had it on our screen a moment ago. I saw it. So the Gemara says, Pre-Eitz Chaim. He doesn't mean the Ariyah Kodesh. He means another Pre-Eitz Chaim. Shenoshem Noitles Machze Sachara Magia LeTalmid HaChachamim. After Piken Eino Kodesh Baruch Hu Megarei Schar HaTalmid Chacham. He gets 100%. His wife gets 50%. And then he goes on to say the same with Yissachar-Zevulun. My late wife used to argue with me all her life, and she said, "I want 100%. 50% is not enough for me." And I promised her 100% for you, 100% for me. So the Bnei Yissachar says, the Talmid Chacham gets 100%, his wife gets 50%. And the same regarding Yissachar-Zevulun. V'chein ereli beniden Zevulun. Last line, we need to scroll up. Chein ereli beniden Zevulun v'Yissachar v'ki yotzei mem shemasiyeh leTalmid Chacham levatzeh maseh noit lemachzeh sacharoi. And I think he also speaks about the mashal of Madlikim and Ner. And I say, Madlikim and Ner. Ner number 1 glows as mighty and as beautiful after he shared his life with others. And Ner 2 is just as beautiful as Ner number 1. So in my opinion, it's a win-win situation. Each of them gets 100%. So, have a look at this. I don't know whether you have this kuntres. It's kedai to get it. And in this kuntres, there are some fascinating Yissachar-Zevulun agreements. One of them is signed by the Bissa Zalman Meltzer. This is a historic document. And I want to read the first lines. אנחנו החסום ממטו, מצד אחד הרב רב גרשון בן אריה יהודה הלוי לוין. I don't know who that Gershon Levine was. ומצד שני, הבוחר החוסן ישרול יעקב בן Aaron Fisher. Did you hear about the Yisrael Yankov Fisher? One of the greatest gedolim of our time. This was an agreement written out by the Bissa Zalman Meltzer between Gershon Levine. I don't know who that lucky Zevulun was. הבוחר החוסן ישרול יעקב בן Aaron Fisher. עשינו קשר בינינו. And הרב רב גרשון לוין מתחייב בלי נדר לתמוך תמיכה קבוע בסך 3 לירות לחודש. A lot of money. Well, let's see whether this has an address. Yeah, Tov Shin Aleph. 82 years ago. 3 lirot every month. Doesn't seem to be much. Well, for a chosin, it was substantial. Gershon Avin מתחייב לתמוך תמיכה קבוע בסך 3 לירות לחודש לבוכר יסוד ינקה פישר שיוכל ללמוד במנוחת הנפש בלי טרדה. באופן שיהיה שותף בלימוד רוסו שיהיה לו ולזוגוסו אסתר גיטל, מחצס זכוס לימוד רוסו 50%. And Gershon Avin will need to split with his gracious wife Esther Gittel. Probably each of them gets 25%. Siv Beis is fascinating. Habocha Yisol Yankov mitchayev lelmod beli neder b'shkida beinoines. Average. Obviously, it was a tzaddik, Yisol Yankov Fisher. And he wasn't willing to take upon himself to be a big masman. Took upon himself, lilmoid beli neder b'shkida beinoines regila lefi koichon. So he said, Beinoni. Well, I think Shkida Beinonis of Yisrael Fisher probably was quite well, because otherwise he wouldn't grow to be one of the Gedolei Hador. So this is a fascinating document, signed by Gershon Levin as the Zevulun, Yisrael Fisher as the Yissachar, underwritten by Naum Issa Zalman Meltzer. But then we have the Yissachar-Zevulun agreement, which is my agreement. And this is the most popular Yissachar-Zevulun shtar. Why is that? Because it is specified in this agreement. Tna'ei heskem ze kfufim lema shekosav bekuntra ze lekaman simen aleph. And that is, this agreement is subject to the opinion of the Minchas Osher. That means the Yissachar doesn't need to be afraid signing this agreement, because it stipulates the Yissachar is giving nothing away. And the Zevulun, according to this agreement, gets 100%. That is my shtar Yissachar-Zevulun. So to me, it's a shutvis. It's not a purchase. Rav Hai Gaon is so simple. You can't sell Olam Haba. It's a ridiculous proposition. It's not yours to sell. It is all about supporting Torah. But it goes far beyond just writing a check. The fact that you obligated yourself to support Socha on a steady basis, and it must be substantial support. It must be support that will enable them to learn the Yishuv Adas. I disagree with Rav Moshe. It doesn't need to be 50% of what you earn. You're a millionaire. Why would a Yissachar get $500,000 a year or $5 million a year? That's ridiculous. But you need to give him substantial support that will enable him to learn better. And then it is considered as if you're learning together. So that is my approach to Yissachar-Zevulun.
Everybody said, well, no. Well, it looks like we're frozen here for a second. It's not the end. Not the end. The Rav's bandwidth. What? Language of Moshe. So we got a little bit of an issue here. No. Could be. Everything is possible. It's very Moshe. I mean, if you were smart enough to do this, Moshe Reichman, the guy gets half of Moshe Reichman. But they state have to be big places to argue with the Moshe. We know that. Or Mordechai, this is not our problem, correct? Is our mic on?
Correct. The Rav's connection went bad.
Kaput. Okay, everybody hang on here. As you can see, we're almost done. But I'm sure the Rav would like to make a conclusion. So everybody hang on here for a moment. We'll see if it comes back on. If not, we need to get a copy of this Kuntris, which seems to have some pretty fascinating Yissachar-Zevulun geschäfts.
I cannot find it on the internet anyplace.
It's on the sir. I just found it.
You want to put up that page of the one with Yisrael Yanka Fisher? That'll be quite interesting to see. Signed by Mrs. Zalman. Everybody hang on here. I see people are beginning to leave, but hang on here for another minute just to see the Rav calls back in Lefich Vaidai, and so he'll be able to wrap it up. This is just to reiterate, the Rav's very, very clear shita in these yanim is that it's a shutfis in the sense that everybody, it's a unique type of shutfis. No one takes away from the other part. You don't have to divide it 50-50. Yissachar keeps 100% of his schar. This Bnei Yissachar, no, I don't want to say pun, but no accident. Bnei Yissachar says it clearly. He says the guy with the Nashim. I would like to get a printout Pesach. Are you able to get that? Print out.
Yes, I
Pesach
just
one?
put this up.
Okay, let's put this up here. Can we get it? There must be an appendix at the end, which gives us the pictures. I don't know. Where's the examples of it? This is all the Shtiklach Torah.
Yeah, it's
Who's
coming
this?
up. It's coming up. I'm scrolling page by page.
How long is this country?
It's a lengthy country. It's 133 pages.
Okay. So before that one goes, I'm sure some people would like to see. I would like to see here's all this the shtickle with.
Dafka Sroichel, the Maramalashka,
They're all here.
Igus
What?
Moshe, everything is here. The Midrash.
You want that mincha? Yes. Yeah, I think my guess from Mordechai is that maybe these escamas are at the end. I mean, the actual escamas maybe in a thing at the end. Is that possible?
I not the way the Rav was holding the kuntras. They seem to be in the beginning.
His Heskim was on page 6.
Anybody have a
All the way
copy
at
of
the
it? You can
beginning.
see. It says
Oh, you see it
kuntras.
on page 6?
All the way at the beginning, he's got his Heskim.
Oh, you saw that. I'm just quickly scrolling. I didn't notice it.
How many are we here? Everybody say in the room. How many are we? 9. So we're gonna have to get
Page
one more.
6 or page Vav?
It's before the index, before the page.
Oh, all the way in the beginning. Okay.
All the way to the beginning, before the index.
So it's Mamish, page number 6.
So the guys in the room, we're gonna have a 2-minute break. We're gonna try that. We're missing somebody, so we'll have to get somebody. What's that?
Earlier.
Yes.
I just called Ravash and he said we're connected.
There it is, right there.
There you
Ah,
go.
there it is.
No, the one before.
One before is Zalman, right there, right there.
Oh, this is the one, or Gershon Levin. Yeah.
Wow.
Weiss,
Where did the Rav find this? How did the Rav find this?
Speaker is.
We don't hear
the
you.
microphone is off. We don't hear you, Rabbi.
Tell
Rabbi,
the
we hear
Rav
you.
his mic is off. Hold on, Pesach.
All right.
Somebody has to tell the Rav the mic is off.
Wait till the Rav's audio gets connected.
1 second, his audio's off.
His audio is not connected yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, now the
we're
Rav's
back.
connected.
Okay, so now scroll up. It's fascinating. Scroll up, not down.
You want earlier or later?
Earlier. So this is one that Rav Shach formulated. אנחנו החסום המטה מוידם שעוסנה בינינו שני הצדדים. הרב והרבוני לשנינו ביחד חלק שווה בשווה בזכות התלמוד תורה שלו את הרב, כאין זבולון אחי יששכר כעזריה עם שמן אוכר כמבוא בספר חופר. והאם בספר אורחס חיים שאילתות רב חיים מבלשן. That's a very simple document that the Rav Shach recommended. The second one is the Bissa Zalman. That's a fascinating historic document. And let's go now to the one I wrote up. So that is my document. And so צד אחד מסחייב ללמד בהסמוד שני זורם בכל יום כמקובל בישיבס בכל יום. You know, you can't demand too much. ולשתדל להויסף על הסדורם אלה כדרכם של אבריכם תלמיד החכם המופלגים. בתלמוד ישחם צדך ולזקסים ולשעת אבים מצד בית. צד בית מסחייב לא זה כל החודש סכום כך וכך. אף אחד שהחג בין הזמנים ישתדל צד בית להסמד בתלמוד. Because בין הזמנים, you know, not שני סדורים, but ישחייב להסמד בתלמוד. It's for a year, תנאי הסכם זה כפופים למה שכוסף בקונטרסה לקמון סימן א'. So I like simple documents, not complicated, not too long. So this is my Yissachar-Zevulun agreement, and I shared with my opinion. Now let me tell you a fascinating story, crazy story that goes back more than 40 years. 40 years ago, the Doivlando contacted me, the great Rosh Hashiva of Slobodka, one of the greatest Gedolim. And we have a very close relationship. Today, we're both so busy, we don't see each other that much. But then I was a younger man, we had a very special connection. There was a girl that needed to be flown to America for a heart transplant, or I don't remember what it was, a life-saving medical procedure. And we needed to raise $200,000. Do you see and hear me, my dear friends?
We do.
And we needed to raise $200,000. And going back 40 years, that was an unbelievable difficult task. Pliny Almani came and he said he's the shliach of a person, a chofetz be'ilum shame. And in a moment, you'll understand why he wanted anonymity, not because he was such a big tzaddik. And he said this: I was a sinner all my life. I'm an old man, and looking back, I regret it. So I am willing to pay $100,000 for somebody that is willing to partner with me in my olam haba. What should I say? Nishkan mitzia gedola. So he wanted someone to partner with him and, you know, take 50% of my olam haba and I'll give $100,000. It was such a crazy offer that a shashivas the gedolim didn't know how to deal with it. And they asked me, you know of a source? Till we were contemplating, the shliach came back, he's willing to cover the entire sum, $200,000. And I showed the gedolim, kvar hoyo la'olamim, and the story came up in this forum of 4 gedolim, contemporaries. Same story. There was a poor man in a little shtetl in Hungary. One day he comes home in the morning and he tells his wife, you won't believe this, we are so lucky. There's a person that is willing to give us continuous support every week, and we will no longer be poor for the rest of our lives. She started dancing. But women sometimes have this intuition. And she asked, doesn't make sense. Tell me the story. You're not a famous person. You're not a great talent. Why would somebody suddenly, and why did it never happen before? So he told her, I found a person. And he says, I'm not a big tzaddik, and I'm willing to support you all of life if you buy 50% of my olam haba. And I was so happy to say, okay. She threw him out of the house. She said, you're not coming into the house till you breach this contract. I want nothing to do with it. I'm not going to take one penny from this person. So the guy was thrown out of his house. He runs to the Rav of the shtetl. The Rav of the shtetl doesn't know how to deal with this question, and he turns to 4 great gedolim. Tshuvas Maharsham, Poisek Gadol. Chele Gimel Simen Kuf Nun Aleph. Machne Chaim, Talmud of the Chsam Sofer, Choshe Mishpat Beis Chov, Even Yekora, Chele Gimel Nun Beis, and finally Chavar B'nei Yimim. And in my Sefer, in the new Minchas Osher, Simen Kuf, I brought these tshuvas. And they all agree, no such a thing. But they do deal with interesting sources. When Yaakov Avinu was afraid, Ula Yemishani Yovi, Voisi Be'enov Kamitateya, Weiss alai klolo velo brocha. What does Rivka say? Olai kilalas mini. I take it upon myself. You're going to be cursed. It's me. So how could a person take upon himself the punishment and the curse of others? Anyway, did I share with you my simcha about the new sefer that came out? I don't remember. I don't think so.
Yes, last week the Rav showed us the new set.
Great. So Minchas Osher Bereishis Siman Kuf. Kuf is a lengthy discussion, and I brought this story as well. So the Marsham, all these four Gedolim say it's ridiculous. And in my opinion, the way I presented and explained the Yissachar-Zevulun, you could understand, doesn't work the other way around. It's crazy. If you support a person serving Torah, this is as you learn. But b'diavad, even by Torah, it doesn't work. Kal v'chomer, it doesn't work. Even if we would assume you could sell Gan Eden, you definitely can't sell Gehenna. But in reality, you can't sell Gan Eden either. However, what I wrote this person without knowing who he is at the time is the fact that you're willing to pay $200,000 to get rid of what you've done proves that you're a Baal Tshuva and you regret what you did. Otherwise, why would you be willing to pay $200,000 to get rid of that bird? Combine that with the mitzvah of Atzolas Nefoshes, I believe. If you're going to say Vidui, and that is exactly what the Marsham writes to that person. You can't sell your Gehenna. However, if you're willing to give so much money to support Oni B'Yisrael, which is a great mitzvah, and it proves your regret, then the Masham writes, you could trust the Kodesh Baruch Hu, Rachem B'Chanam, Ki lo yachpoitz b'mois hameis ki b'shuva medar perachai, that you will have kaporas avodos. So to the best of my memory, recollection, it goes back more than 40 years. I think the person at the end of the day gave the money, and the child was taken care of. So I only shared with you a tip min hayam, and if you really want to learn the sugya in greater depth, Minchas Osher Bereishis, the new edition, it's not in America yet, but it should be shortly. But you could turn to my son-in-law Bainish, Harav Bainish, and I'll send it an email. So this is a fascinating sugya. And it's very many people today opt for the option of a Yissachar-Zevulun contract. I have a few in the Latin Michael that are supported by Zevulun's outstanding Lamdonim. So I explained the way I understand the Yissachar-Zevulun concept. It's not a transaction, it's not a purchase, it's not buying, it's not selling, it is supporting. But it goes beyond the schus of just writing a check for a yeshiva or a koilel. And with this type of agreement, it is as if Yissachar and Zevulun are learning together, sitting together, learning together, each of them getting 100%. The Chofetz Chaim writes, but that goes beyond the realm of halacha. Chofetz Chaim writes, Velo ased lavoy, the Zevulun will be a great Talmid Chacham. And he says, Chazal say, B'tzela Chachma, B'tzela Kesef. That in Gan Eden, the Zevuluns will sit together with the Yissachars. So the Chofetz Chaim says, what do they do there? They'll be terribly bored and terribly embarrassed. The Yissachars aren't going to be mefalpel. It's going to be a fiery debate. And the Zevuluns are going to sit there like a klutz, like a goylem, and they won't know what's going on. Not reasonable. Chofetz Chaim says, the Zevulun will understand everything the Yissachar achieved in his learning. But that goes beyond the realm of halachic discussion. That is something beyond our understanding. Okay, so I hope the shiur today was an interesting shiur. To me, it definitely was.
I have a serious question. If I may ask the Rav, if I just go back to the story, is the Rav still there?
Yes, yes.
Did that a person with the operation, they were trying to buy the Elam Haba of somebody like Rav Dov Landau? Is that what actually happened?
No. He wanted somebody to buy his Gehenna to share with
Gehenna.
his speckle. That was
So why did he come? Why did he come to Rav Dov Landau? He wanted Rav Dov Landau to buy his Gehenna?
No, it's just because it was in the papers. There was an ad that we need $200,000 to save a child's life. He knew nothing about the Dov Landau. He just responded to an ad in the newspaper. You need $200,000 to save a girl's life. I'm willing to give the money, but find somebody that'll partner with my Olam Haba. That was the story.
Wow.
And that is the same story as we find in Shuvas Marasham.
Beautiful. Okay. Yeshikayach, we are actually waiting this firm.